you for coming to this event, the second session. We are here for the Master Talk event as part of celebrating the 40th anniversary of East Java Architecture Indonesian Architect Institute with Mr. Chatpong. Permission to not pronounce the okay, Mr. Chatpong, just Mr. Chatpong. Okay. From Chat Architect, Bangkok, Thailand, to tell us a glimpse of how design process and the studio culture of his Chat Architects. Okay, I will have to admit that composing introduction for Mr. Chatpong is not an easy homework. As I was saying to him a few moments ago, apart from the information about his impressive education resume and his works, I cannot easily find anything else. The first thing we would notice is Chat Architect doesn't have any website. The only first-hand information about the Chat Architect and their works is a Facebook page. This alone interests me. I began to think that the lack of website is deliberate and by design, and fortunately he confirms it. With Facebook page, you can have immediate connection between you, the owner of the page, and the audience, the client, the future clients, everyone. Gone are the cold and single direction communication website could potentially provide, or lack of for that matter. Chat Architect seems to care a lot about individuals, care a lot about the specific. This assumption is getting stronger when I do a little bit of research about the Chat Architect. Apart from how obviously beautiful work of Chat Architect, the studio seems to have a different strategy on every single project. It's like the studio are handcrafting every single project specific to the site, to the locals. I honestly cannot find the visual similarity between the projects. Each project are so different, and my personal favorite is this Assumption Street hotel. I guess that's obvious. When he added a new layer of steel iron structure with very unique 70s refrigerator green color on an old building to give it new refreshing life. A bit of background, Mr. Chatpong received his Bachelor of Arts and Architecture at Berkeley and earned his Master from Harvard GSD and became the director of Chat Architect after he went back to Thailand. Apart from his amazing work of practice in Chat Architect, Mr. Chatpong also an academia. He teaches in several highly notable universities, from his alma mater at Harvard, KMUTT University of Technology, Rangsit University, and Chulalongkorn University. Mr. Chatpong and his Chat Architect also received several notable awards that I should mention. Some of the most recent are Thailand Emerging Architect in 2014, Best Architectural Design in Thailand for his work in Nanda Heritage Hotel, also in 2014, Gold Medal Thailand Emerging Architecture Award in 2017, and Best Place for Residential Living Design Anthology Award for his work in Yoga School in 2019. On a note that I found online, Mr. Chatpong once said, "I try to let Thailand teach me to see architecture through new eyes, to frame design in a new and authentic way." I think that's why his work, as I have mentioned before, are so well crafted specifically to the site. I hope Mr. Chatpong will let us more about this in his presentation. Okay, without further ado, I will ask Mr. Chatpong to come to the stage. Please welcome Mr. Chatpong, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, the stage is yours.
Should I teach them Thai? I want to teach you Thai. And then I have to take a picture for my wife because she doesn't believe I'm working. So as soon as I take a picture, we can leave and go have a party. Okay, do you know how to, well, I'll teach you how to say hello in Thai. Put your hands together like this. And you say, Sawadee krap. Hold on, if you're a man, you say Sawadee krap. If you're a woman, you say Sawadee ka. Okay? Practice. You're gonna get a grade. Okay, on a count of 3, right? You're gonna do this. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Excellent. Thank you. And you can call me Chat. It's short and easy. Thais have very long names and hard to understand, so we all have a small, short nickname, easy to understand. Yes, yes. Oh, first of all, I have to thank you. I have to thank everybody. Thank Yuli, and thank the Indonesian Institute of Architects, East Java, Surabaya branch. It's a real pleasure for me to, and Kayu too. Thank you for the beautiful dinner last night. It's a real pleasure for me to always speak in ASEAN nation. I'm more interested to talk to you than anywhere else in the world. I feel like we are a family, ASEAN family. And I feel like the things we have to offer are very similar culturally, cuisine, craft, architecture. The things that I'll talk about, I hope you'll see similarities. So I want to talk about how to look inside ourselves to make our architecture deeper, authentic, and the focus of the world. I haven't looked at Architizer or Design or any design website in probably about 5-6 years. And I'll tell you why, because of the things I find just near me. I call, my office is kind of unusual. It's called Chat Architects. And we do design and we do research. The reason I do research, is it because I am academic or I want to be a professor? No, I feel like I'm stupid. I feel like I don't know enough about architecture in, I don't even say Thailand, I say Bangkok. I don't want to use the word Thai because it's too wide. For example, I wouldn't use the word Indonesian architecture. Sometimes I'd be afraid to use Surabayan architecture because within here are very specific things. So that's the lesson. But at least I want to start with Bangkok, right? So I do this because of the problem I had maybe moving back to Bangkok after being away for 20 years in America. I lived in America from 6 years old till master's. And then I moved back, and for the first 4 years, very frustrated because I felt like what I was taught in the Western world couldn't be fully used in Thailand. The problem was you have a modern architecture on one side that you learn in school, even school in Asia, right? We only teach modern architecture. On the other side, you have historical Thai architecture, or historical Indonesian architecture. Modern architecture sometimes is too global, not local enough. Historical architecture is local, but not current, not contemporary. Really beautiful principles on traditional architecture could be tropical, but it's not live. So, to me, I felt like you have these two things, and you have experts here, you have experts here, but in the middle, nobody is studying. Because it's a mix. And I feel like good architecture is a mix. And in the middle is what I call bastards. Can you define bastards in your language? Would you call me a bastard? Okay. I'll define it for you, and maybe you have a word in Japanese or a local? Okay. Well, I'll tell you why I name my research and design Bangkok Bastards. I'm going to stand up. Okay, Bangkok, because I love working in Bangkok. I like to just work in one place and get to know that place very well and very deep, rather than going in many places and knowing surface information, okay? So that's my laboratory. Bangkok is my lab. Bastard, okay. The definition of bastard is an offspring of unknown origin, a son or daughter of unknown parent, right? So you call somebody a bastard if maybe they know their mom, but they don't know who the father is. It's like a soap opera, right? Or maybe they're orphan and they don't know who their mother and their father is. right? So it's somebody who doesn't have a history, who doesn't have credibility, somebody low, people look down on. So that's an insult, right? It's an insult, like, you bastard, not a good thing to call somebody, right? What's a word in your language for bastard? You have to say it loud, like,
I don't know, yeah. No, we call bastard is, sorry, bajingan. Tapi bajingan, B-A-G-I-N-G-A-N.
Bajingan. Bajingan. Right? Okay, I'm gonna write that down. Next time so I know how to communicate with my brothers and sisters. Bajingan. Okay. So let's talk about Surabaya Bajingan. Okay, so a bastard, right? So it's an insult if it's a person. But then a bastard building, Bajingan architecture, to me, it's a built structure. It doesn't have to be a building. It could be a cart. It could be a temporary structure that has no. People think that it has no value. It has no history. They don't know where it came from. Sometimes they're called slums. Sometimes they're called eyesores to the city. Sometimes they're called trash and garbage, but not architecture. I think it's the best type of architecture, if you ask me. And they look, and I think bastard buildings are one of the truly authentic vernacular architecture, because they're usually created by poor people to solve everyday problems in life. So it's done very innocently, very truthfully, and very cheaply. And sometimes very illegally, right? So it looks like this. I started looking at construction worker houses. Do you have construction worker houses in here? So see, we're brothers and sisters. But if you ask most people, even architects, they look at this and they don't see any value in this. But to me, this elevation has so much life and so much authenticity, right? You can see people, okay, it's messy, that's fine. But the composition is done in a very organic way. You can see where people wash their clothes, cook their dinners, drink their liquor, play hooky from work. So it's a very authentic and true architecture. But when I first started photographing it, I just thought it looked interesting. I didn't know why. It made me feel a certain way that it's authentic, right? But I wasn't brave enough to do anything more until one day I said, I'm gonna draw it. Because if it's interesting enough, we should treat it as though it's real, genuine architecture and give it respect. So we went in and first I photographed it, and then I went in and measured it. And I started to draw and understand what a construction worker house is, very simply. So basically, you probably know this if you think about it. The rooms are small, right? Very hot, very uncomfortable. Many times out of corrugated metal, right? But there's another element, always. It's a scaffolding. Usually a circulation or veranda or covered overhang that becomes a mask or becomes, I call a life scaffolding that fulfills many functions, tropically and life. So the scaffolding becomes a place where in the daytime, the workers never stay inside, it's too hot. So they hang out on the scaffolding. They cook, they eat, they talk, they socialize, they get drunk, they fight, right? And we start to see a pattern of how these rooms and the scaffolding change in order to adapt to different situations. For example, this is the same condominium development that has construction worker house in the back, next to canal. But here the scaffolding has been transformed into a helmet to block construction particles from going down through the roof, right? So now it's a defensive hat. If you understand these single modular elements, you understand that they can you can manipulate them. The scaffolding could be on the outside, or it could be on the inside as a double-loaded corridor. Isn't this a beautiful building? No architect designed this, just construction workers. And so this one has an internal corridor, a double-loaded corridor, that is also a wind tunnel. So they cook and eat here as well. And so if these are single buildings, they can then be added together to become housing, right? Core, scaffolding, core, scaffolding, core. And the great thing about Bangkok Bastards is that it's a loose system that people can improvise once they start building it. For example, look at this beautiful scaffolding corridor with corrugated metal sheet that's bent as a rain gutter, and the light reflects onto the underside of the ceiling. Or they change the corrugated metal to building fabric, right? Cooler, but it also changes the meaning of architecture. So instead of opening a door with a doorknob, you unbutton the door, right? And inside, because construction workers, usually migrant workers or local ties, it's a temporary house, there's no furniture, they just sit and sleep on the floor. All they need to do is redefine what a window is. A window doesn't need to be plus 80 or 75 centimeters off the ground, it's right on the ground, because if you sit here, you just need the light down low. So you just peel your window up. It changes the meaning of architecture. In the most innocent way, right? There's no pretension about this. And so I started studying construction worker houses, and I started to diagram them in isometric. Drawing is very important to me. It sounds old-fashioned, but it's our main tools. Our main tools to see the world is plan, section, elevation, isometric, perspective maybe. So I always approach every project with these dumb, incredible tools. So after the construction worker house, I wanted to go more detail into these bastards because I felt like diagramming them only reveals a very diagrammatic understanding of the architecture. But if I wanted to prove something else about why this architecture is so special, I have to go more detail. Because I think it's, when you have a view about architecture, it's all about a hypothesis. Something that you kind of feel is true, but you don't know if it's true. I felt like architecture in our house, Thailand, Indonesia, Malaysia, Vietnam, isn't just walls, floors, and ceiling. It's little pieces, for example. So we started to draw this informal, illegal waterside shanty town in plan. I don't know if you can see it. So we drew everything. You see the insides of it? I'll show you later. We drew pillows and mattresses and clothes hangers and cats and dogs, even the garbage in the water. Because I feel like architecture for us isn't just construction, but it's like these small little objects, potted plants, pillows, sofas, furniture, even bicycles. All of these make space in Bangkok. And then we start to understand that similarly to the scaffolding, the circulation element becomes the outdoor community rooms where people come out of the hot, small interiors and hang out on these small little 2-meter wide alleys. But with this drawing, do you realize how much space and how much life this creates? These pots and pans and Buddha images and refrigerators and trash. The building becomes a whole different ASEAN thing, right? So this is an important picture because it shows how life happens in the cracks in between and circulation in informal spaces where, you know, alcohol, beer bottles, and baskets is architecture. So we went even further to study these bastards in detail to see how the connections are made from used parts, right? So old wood members Old steel tubes from construction sites, even old telephone poles are reused, right? But the connection is very unique. They're all face joints. Not Japanese like mortise and tenon where everything comes in crisp. We're the opposite. They're called bullshit joints. Because it has to be fast joints that you can attach quickly and detach quickly because tomorrow the police will come and take you away. So you have to move. So the joints express this bastardness, right? I'm going to skip between research and design to see how we work because it is just a straight formula. This is the first project. I'll show you just 3 projects today. Sala Arya is a house and yoga studio for a friend. She herself is an import. She was kind of raised in America and moved back to Thailand. So we have similar multicultural backgrounds and it's expressed in the project. So this project is it's in a exclusive residential neighborhood. And I was talking to Andy yesterday about, I think the goal of middle-class Asians is to make money and move out of the city and buy a house with a garden, right? That's how we say Jakarta has land and house developments that is single detached home with a garden, right? I think a lot of people would like to have more space, have their own home. For me, the problem with this Western invention is, like before in Thailand, we all used to live in shop house, right? Or even, agricultural land, right? In the shop house, you have business on the bottom and you are always in connection with the city. And you sleep on the top, the family sleeps on the top. So there's always a public life to the private residence. Once we got money, once we learned from the Americans and the Europeans that you need a single detached home to be happy, we started to believe it. So we buy and we build our detached home and our garden, but then we forget that, oh my God, Jakarta or Bangkok or Surabaya sometimes isn't so safe. So we build a wall around us. So the street where you can walk down and you say hello to your neighbor, now you're just saying hello to a blank wall all the way through, right? This is modern development. This is what happens. So this house starts to continue a thesis that I try to make the suburban house more public. And it happens in this unique neighborhood called Samakon Village. It's a huge private gated community, but it's developed in a way that's very illegal and very wonderful. What happens mostly in these gated neighborhoods? You can build houses there, right? And nothing else. You can't build shops, you can't build offices, no commercial, because they want to maintain safety and security and one program. But this community has convenience store, weddings, cafe, restaurant, massage places, pubs, fresh market, even a cuckoo clock store. People who live in this village say they don't have to go into downtown Bangkok to get anything. Everything is provided for, which I think is a great thing to have a mixed-use community, right? So I thought it was perfect for this site to entertain a private house that has a public face as a thesis. So my client is right here. Her name is Pak Arya. She's kind of a celebrity. She used to be Miss Thailand. I don't know when, but now is a famous yoga teacher and really great, has been a good friend for many, many years. She has a small house in that neighborhood that's getting too small. Her neighbors, men and women, walk to her house to learn yoga. It's a really great community activity. But now the house is getting too small that there's not enough room. So she went and bought another piece of property near the lake. And the lake is kind of a flood reservoir in the neighborhood. So it's this plot right here. So the way we conceptualize this project and thinking about the research is the house architecture isn't the main actor. The main actor of this is called the soi, or the alley. The same type of alley that we saw in the waterside community. Because we feel like the alley is actually a place where public life and the outdoor environment can actually thrive. So this house is unique in that it mixes private and public. So when the gate is closed here, it's a house, a private house. But when the gate is completely thrown open, it is an extension of the alley in front of the house, which pulls you through the house and to the water beyond. So the houses are these two long longitudinal masses. And seen from the water, it's like a snake, like a cobra, that it slides along and its head comes up to become the master bedroom on top and a guest bedroom here. But the main space is this no air conditioning, a completely passive ventilated outdoor alley. And so you see the plan right here, the ground floor plan, where the gate is thrown open and you can come in and the neighborhood can spill in and learn yoga. In section, it's just a simple shed roof at the end that works as kind of a time-lapse shading device. For example, in the morning when the sun is coming from the east here, they come and practice yoga here so that the shadow of the roof protects them. In the afternoon, when the sun is going down this way, they come and practice on the lake so that the roof gives them shade. And when it's raining, they just practice underneath the roof right here in the middle. The material finish is very important. We wanted to choose a material and use the material in such a way that it becomes urban, architecture, and interior. Our projects are always trying to erase the boundary that separates these elements. So we decided to use a special type of bastard brick. How do you say bastard again? Basingwa? Bachinya brick. Okay? So it starts from the gate and it bleeds and pulls the visitor inside the house into the river, into the lake. And this is it. These are old doors salvaged from a 40-year-old Thai house. So their shutter doors are completely thrown open and visitors can come, neighbors can just walk and come and practice yoga here. So this house becomes a part of the street, much like the shop house, bottom level, used to be a part of the neighborhood. But now it's a suburban model, right? And so this is the multi-purpose space that they practice yoga on. No air conditioning at all, it's always open air, and there's always a breeze going through, cross ventilation. Inside, underneath the canopy, there are hard surfaces and softer surfaces for headstands and handstands for yoga. But inside here is storage, a big storage room to put all the mobile furniture in, because the lifestyle in this house is very flexible. Whenever there's yoga school, all the furniture on wheels are wheeled in and stored in there, so it becomes multi-purpose space. And if you go upstairs, the cabinetry is all wicker so that the shoe cabinet ventilates, right? A rattan. And when you get to the back, this is where they practice yoga in the afternoon to escape the sun from the other side. But once they finish yoga, they relax and they bring out all the mobile cushioned furniture. And even better, or even worse, I don't know, after they finish yoga, they cook a big fat meal and eat. That undoes all the exercise they did in yoga. But it's a great community activity, right? You come and practice, and then you all bring potluck, and you cook together, and you eat together. This is why I enjoy architecture. It isn't just about the building, but it's about the program you start to invent. And in the evening, it just becomes a relaxed space. The use of materials is important. We always like to use scavenged materials, but materials that have meaning, memory. This is the guest bedroom that I told you about. So this is in the central void, so there are these green shutters or windows that happen in the interior, so it feels like it's an interior-exterior space. Same thing at the master bedroom volume, where you can open the green shutters and look down. But there's a kind of another layer of meaning behind it. We bought these green shutters, 500 baht a piece, like super cheap. It's like $11. It's all teak wood, saved from an old elementary Thai school. I don't know how it is, how the elementary schools here, but in Thailand, if you see this color and shutters, you know it came from an elementary school like this. This is kind of too fancy. It's like a rich boy's school. Usually it's much simpler. It's 2 levels with corridor. It's either green or pink or baby blue or purple in Thailand when I was a kid. And so once you see that, that's why we kept the original green. We like the idea of this old Thai school element now being used in a yoga school. At the same time, the client, Bob Ariya, because she was raised in America, she has an image of the little red brick school. If you ask an American child what they think of what a school looks like, they'll think of this, like this little red brick school in New England, right? So we like that there are these 2 elements. When they combine, they kind of create a blurry overlap. We don't need to explain it, that this means this means this, but hopefully to somebody who knows these, it creates a blurry memory. I think it's super important to not just say, this is the concept, I'm going to show you very clearly that this, and this. The house is a butterfly, so it has wings, right? That's very first year architecture school. So, which I did in first year. I did a house with a butterfly. I think the idea of memory and being blurry and having many meanings is really good in architecture, right? Every job site has problems, catastrophic problems, but it's how you handle them. You see them as negative or opportunity to do something special. When we ordered the brick for this house, it was supposed to be 12 inches wide. We put in 50% deposit, and when the first batch came, they unloaded the brick, and instead of being 12 centimeters wide or long, it was 9 centimeters. And I asked the brick supplier, I said, what happened to the brick? Oh, there's a small shrinking percentage error. I said, how do you shrink 3 centimeters? That's 25%. I'm sure you have, this type of problem happens to job sites here, and we couldn't do anything. So what happens if the brick shrinks from 12 centimeters to 9 centimeters? What's the problem? I won't have enough bricks to cover the building, right? So 1/4 of the building will not have brick on it. So I said, oh shit. This is our carpenter, Chang Nu. Chang Nu said, chat. Well, he calls me An, or my nickname. Kun An. Don't worry, I have a solution. I'm gonna chop the bricks. He chopped 15,000 bricks in 3 days on his table saw. And we agreed that he shouldn't chop them the same size. He should vary the sizes so that his hand is seen through it. So what we did was turn a negative problem into an opportunity. If we had veneered the house with a regular brick, we would have spent almost 1 million baht on steel scaffolding to carry the weight. Now that the brick has been halved into a bastard tile, it can be adhered with epoxy and mortar. So we saved almost 1 million baht. What happens with that is that you get a new architectural language that isn't load-bearing, right? You don't need to show how the weight carries through, and you can actually design different patches. So it's very superficial, it's very skin deep, very Thai. But the patterns aren't random. Each collage represents a hidden function, built-ins, or activity inside the interiors of that mass. So it becomes a code for something more meaningful. All right, so that's that wall right there. That wall is actually a low counter for her mom, who is in a wheelchair. So you can actually see the DNA of the wheelchair occupant in there. That's the bathroom, right? That's the ceiling plane. So, in essence, the lessons we learn in this small little soy and alley transforms or is translated into something similar in DNA, but may not look the same. So I'm showing you how research creeps in, right? I've been doing this research for 5 years. I didn't know when it was going to come in, right? Next, I'm going to show you a hotel in the mountains, right? This one's called A Bastard in the Mountains. This one didn't have case studies that were documented, but it came out of kind of accumulated knowledge over the year as to the attitude we should have about resort architecture. I'm sure you have this in Indonesia. So this is a resort in a very beautiful mountain forest preserve, right? And they're beautiful exotic animals that are only local to Kauai, or Big Mountain here. So it's a great natural environment. But the past 15 years, this beautiful environment, the government has allowed to become a resort, and not just a resort, a European resort town. So this is Thames Valley. It's an English-style resort at the foot of the mountains, and then we have Palio, kind of a miniature Italian hill town, and we even have like Leaning Tower of Pisa. In the back, there's a row of air condensers, right? So this is the context that the client gave us to do a resort. But not only that, the client said, I really like this style. But she was a really smart woman. I mean, I really respected her taste. She was a design director of the biggest furniture supplier in Thailand that imports Barberry and Martha Stewart, so high-end brands. Also, she sent me another photo, a reference you wanted me to inspire me. You know what that is? Right? Harry Potter's World of Wizarding. And so I started to scratch my head. It's like, what the fuck? This is when the dilemma of the designer comes out, right? You go to school and you're taught, you teach us, and I taught my students, modern is the only way to go. We do a modern language, and that's all we'll ever teach you. And if there's any other style, it's Disneyland. It doesn't have as much credit. So that's one side of the brain, right? But then we all have this other side of the brain where we love going to Harry Potter at Universal Studio, right? So this is when a project like this challenges us, that says maybe these two brains actually should be united, where is it bad to do something like this? It's kind of an architecture that has a European flavor to it, right? Of course it's an extreme, but isn't colonial architecture a hybrid between Western and Eastern, right? Not as much kitsch as this, but these are the questions that go through my mind when I'm working on a project like this. I could either do this project as, I could tell the client, oh, this is really bad taste. You should do something really innovative and something very modern, right? Or you should do something that's very Thai, like wood, house on stilts, right? Or maybe we do a riskier alternative. Next, she sent me a third reference. She said, I want a labyrinth garden. I said, okay, maybe I can work with that, because that's not style-based. It's actually this landscape form that actually can create space, right? You can start to design space with that. I said, okay. I took a deep breath and I said, okay, how about this? Let's just say that I can't do anything that is English or Harry Potter, but I will do something that's magical. Okay, that's how I kind of BS my way through. And so what we did was this. The plot is, this is the street in front, and the plot is kind of a longitudinal plot. So there are mountain ranges on this side and mountain ranges on that side. So beautiful views this way and that way of a wall of mountains. We're in the valley. And there's a beautiful natural stream at the back. So what we told the client was that this will be a magical place. But instead of a master plan, we're dividing this like a storybook into 5 chapters. Chapter 1, Chapter 2, Chapter 3, Chapter 4, Chapter 5. And so there are different resort components. These are the hotel rooms. This is kind of welcoming garden, hotel rooms, villas, the Great Hall, which is restaurant and conference, and then the swimming pool, right? But there are always 2 ways to tell a story, right? We work with a great graphic designer and brander called Be Our Friend. So together we researched that in Khao Yai National Park, there are all these unique big mountain animal species, from deer to fawn to rabbits to porcupine to little muskrats, and even leopards that are very local Thai species. And so this whole resort is a kingdom for these special Thai species. It's a way of giving respect back to this, not as a European resort, but actually something that's naturally, environmentally, and locally based. So we want to teach, especially the kids, when you come to this resort, you won't be transported to England, but you actually learn about the animals in this sanctuary, right? But then we told them that in these 5 different chapters, different levels of society of animals live there. The lower society of animals, like the weaklings, the squirrels and the rabbits and the porcupines, live in this kind of like lower, everyday garden maze. The king lives in the hotel, which is like a palace, right? And the noble people, the noble animals live in the villas, right? And this is a throne hall, which is the restaurant, right? And finally, the swimming pool becomes an extension of the river and back. And all of these are some type of manifestation of the maze or the labyrinth. So what we try to do here is we try to use a Western model, which is a maze or labyrinth, and translate it into a local big mountain tool. For example, once you arrive at this labyrinthian kind of maze that the kids can run around in, and finally it opens up in this open meadow. Right, so you come in, you can run. So there are little burrows, little tunnels of animals and sculptures in these hillocks, right? But then it leads you to this cafe. This is a cafe that the public who's not staying at the hotel can stay at. And inside is actually where we say that all the little animals, the lower class, the rabbits and the porcupine and the squirrels come to the pub here. And if you look, there are small little tunnels all over and small little customized furniture. This one is for a porcupine so that the needles can stick out. This one's for a rabbit where the tail can stick through. There's one with long legs for a special bird. And so we built this story where we said that the entire national forest is full of a network of tunnels where all these animals go through and travel and emerge from here into the cafe. So these are some photos we have of the real thing. Next, we have the hotel element. So this is kind of like one of the critical players in this project. Again, there's kind of always a double story, both meaningful. So the hotel rooms are here and here. What we told the client was that this is actually a magical castle, right? Where the stone mass surrounds the cloister guard in the middle, right? In actuality, these are all shop house modules, 5 meters wide, just 2 strips with a connecting wall, right? We always have these secrets that deal with budget and always play double meaning. So what happens is, similar to the labyrinth, and I'll tell you the history of the labyrinth. This is a drone shot. What happens is, as a visitor, you come through the middle module, which is kind of like a gable tunnel that takes you to the heart of the maze, right? This is the heart of the maze. So you go through here into the middle of the garden. Go through this big portal, through a garden, and into this open air pavilion, which is the lobby. And in the lobby, you'll find these magical drawers, which you open up. You get a welcoming package with your magical horns. Oh, all the creatures have magical horns. So we have a magical horn keychain, right? And road map, and card key, and welcoming letter. And you take your key to the maze in the garden, because there are 48 different doors, all different. And you have to choose which one you go through, okay? The maze can take you straight, but you may never see what the end of the road is. It makes you turn. And then you find your entry into your hotel room. Or it takes you to a stair that takes you to a second level. You never know where you're going to wind up. So that way, what we're able to do is we are retelling a Western myth in a Thai way. The myth is, in Greek mythology, King Minos had captured the monster, it's a minotaur, half bull, half human. And he put the minotaur in this special maze that he created in the middle, so that the minotaur wouldn't be able to get out and harm people. But if you look at this in a very conceptual way, this maze has one entry and one exit. If you understand the principle of a maze, how you can be trapped if you're at ground level, or if you're a bird, then you can see your way out. That's a very important thing to understand about a maze. And also, traditionally, the maze only has one entry and one exit. So we played the game in our minds that, what if there are 48 exits or 48 entrances? How does that change the idea of a maze from capturing a monster to welcoming hotel guests? We play these games all the time in our minds, right? What happens with this is you're able to create a new type of resort. One where each room and each maze has its own private garden. So you have 48 different rooms with their own gardens, right? All geometrically not the same. So what happens is you can actually stay in your room, or you can have breakfast in your garden, or have outdoor activity. So we expand the area of a room to not just 30 square meters, but actually 40 to 60 square meters. Half of it is outdoors. And this labyrinth allows you to see your room with the back landscape of the mountains in the back. So it creates a new type of mountain resort experience. And once you go up, you go through the maze, and you go up through this new type of architecture that's both Western and Eastern. This is another type of scaffolding in my mind, right? It's kind of a veranda area that allows you to set the rain and the sun away from the building. But the use of broken arches creates a new type of niche and volumes. This is actually the graphic designers. So we're creating a new type of stone architecture in tropical mountain Thailand that's not heavy, that's not load-bearing, but very light and very hollow and very tropical. And reframes the mountains in a different way. So I think this is an important lesson we learned, is that we were given the idea of a client asking us to do something Western. We tried to do that, but in a way hybridize and bastardize it in a way that it's still local. Okay? So instead of a heavy load-bearing wall that's made of big stones that are stacked together in Europe, now we have these stone walls that are veneered on concrete frame. They're small little mosaics, about 1 inch by 2 inches. The ends of the walls are capped by concrete so that you can see that it's planar and it's thin. So we think about bastardizing in the tectonic detail as well. Creating memory is important. Even though this is kind of a Western iconography castle, we want to create another layer where we bought 48 different Thai doors, salvaged from old shop houses and old Thai agricultural homes. And once we set them into this Western maze, there's a positive confusion that happens. The guest comes, usually Thai, and they say, wait, these are Thai doors. They have this narrow proportions, they have infill panels, but some of them have been taken out and turned into hollow, ventilatable screens or grills. So the idea of this Western and Eastern mixing in detail is important again here as well. So we call it a new Khao Yai, which means big mountain, this sanctuary, this forest reserve, architectural language. So in creating a new language, we accept all the different languages, styles. We don't reject them, but create a new one, right? So this is a collage we made at the beginning of the project where first, Khao Yai had these sparse Thai houses that sat in the mountainside. But eventually, 20 years ago, these guys came in. We turned to this. We turned to that. So they're not random gables. It's encoded with meaning, right? Even though the visitor or the reader may not understand it, it's still your responsibility to give it respect. I think that's important I think that's the integrity of architecture. Not everybody has to understand what you're doing, which means that maybe you can't do just a dumb one-liner. You have to do something that has to have multiple readings, that it's rich, that has layer. The last element here is called the Great Hall, which I was talking to Andy about. So the Great Hall is this element right here. It's a dining hall and conference room. So again, 2 stories. Secretly, I wanted to push the idea of the Thai house in a new way. The Thai house used to be kind of a single family pavilion. But what happens if a Thai house is transformed or bastardized into a big building? So we did this collage. And his is the real thing. Again, multiple meanings. Secretly, I said it was a new typology of a Thai house, but I didn't tell my clients. I had another story for my client. I said, this is a magical kingdom. And the one person who lives here is, okay, you see the underside of the curve and how it has another spatial meaningful reading. But I told them, this is a magical kingdom, and the one who presides over this is Dumbledore. And Dumbledore loves his magical hat. When arranged, it turns into this. Both valid. Both valid. But what I was talking about with Andy in that I think good architecture has to have multiple readings. He said he looked at this and the first thing he thought of was this traditional Indonesian house with a very sweeping curved roof, which made my heart sing because that's exactly what I want. I wanted to create an architecture that didn't speak only to Thai people, but ASEAN. But I don't give a shit if nobody else understands. I care if we understand. If it's meaningful to us locals, I don't have to sell it to Europeans and Americans. We need to stop doing that. I don't need their awards. We don't need their awards, right? If we do something good that's meaningful and not worry if everybody's going to understand it, it may just be the 2 of us, but if it has meaning, everybody else will see value in it. I think that was an important lesson for me. Lastly, you have a swimming pool, That's another variation of the labyrinth, where it's a figure 8. So it's an infinity pool, so you never know when it's going to end, almost like a maze. And it's an extension of the river in the back, right? I think this is one of the highlights of the resort. Please come, but you have to book about 2 months ahead of time. But I think the garden is really great. It's done by a local landscape architecture firm that we work with called Shama. So, Thai, Western, both bastards. Last project. This hotel, the latest hotel, was just opened 2 months ago, called the Samsen Street Hotel. I have to give you a little backstory of this hotel. We started working. The story begins when we were working on our first hotel called the Nanda Heritage Hotel, right? This hotel was on a road in the neighborhood of this next hotel. While I was working on this hotel, I tried to create a typology of a hotel or a public building that is next to a busy Thai street, Bangkok street. So what happened is, I still wanted to create an outdoor court or a lung for the city for all our buildings. So we designed a special kind of outdoor court that recycled old doors and windows from an owner's house. And then we created this little tunnel that filtered pollution and noise so that the busy street traffic and noise and dust didn't all go in here. But you can still see a glimpse, a taste of what's happening of the outdoor inside. And I thought, wow, that was pretty good. I'm pretty smart. But then it wasn't so smart that this project took 7 years to finish. And every time I went to the site, I said, what the hell? Why are there other buildings with a tunnel? Like, this is 3 doors down, there's another building with a tunnel. And then I found another neighbor with a tunnel. And then another neighbor with a tunnel. And then I started to understand that these were curtain sex motels. So I started a new research on the local Bangkok curtain sex motel. Super interesting, not because of the activity inside, but because of the architecture. You can decide for yourself if the activity is interesting on your next trip. So the interesting story about this is had always been interested in the curtain sex motel because if you know just a little bit about it, there's a secret court inside, right? But I'd never gotten access to a sex motel because, you know, I would have problems with my wife, right? And so I was able to find this research case from my son. Let me tell you the story. He was 8 years old at the time. And he was talking to his friend, Bart, at school, international school. And I don't know how it came to be, but my son said, you know what? My dad loves curtain sex motels. I don't know how they got to talking about this. And Bart said, what a coincidence. My grandfather owns a whole bunch of sex motels. And so I got Bart's number. I got this research case study from Bart. So I was able to get in contact with Papa Tony. That's the name of his grandfather. Papa Tony as I found out, is a small-time mafiosa who owns a lot of sex motels. And this is one of his nicest ones, and they all have these innocent, innocuous names. This one's called the Picnic Hotel. Like, you go have a picnic there. All right? So, isn't this a beautiful building? You see this? If you're in school in architecture history, you call this brise soleil. Like, Corbusier designed these, or one of the people who helped innovate these fins that block solar gain, right? If you angle them the right way, so that they prevent sunlight from going through the windows. But if you look at the front elevation, there aren't any windows. It's a psychological mask to really prevent you from remembering what this building is and protecting the guests, the privacy of the guests. And as with all sex motels, it has a tunnel. So what happens is not you, usually an older gentleman, could be a woman, would come in a car, heavily tinted windows, and would have a special friend, right? To go have a picnic with, right? So they would drive through this tunnel. All of them have tunnels. And what happened here is usually the picnic hotel is a curtain sex motel that's right on the street. Some of these curtain sex motels in Bangkok are buried inside the block with no entry. But they buy one shophouse module and they punch a tunnel through it so that it becomes a threshold to get to the secret place. An architect thought of this. Isn't that amazing? So some tunnels are, okay, some of them are extreme. But then you emerge on this outdoor auto court. So you would drive your car into these slots that have either red or blue or green curtains. As soon as your car drives in, an attendant comes and closes the curtain. And there is a guest room connected to the parking spot where you go in and picnic. For 5 minutes, 12 minutes, 20 minutes, however long you want. And when you're finished, you and your friend get back in the car and you leave. Okay, this is the representation for a picnic. And then you leave through a secret exit out the side alley because your wife may be waiting at the front tunnel. And so I diagrammed it. Go here, do your thing, and then you leave. Right? We love this case study so much. We did this first study about 7 years ago. Last year, for a magazine in China, we did more analytical drawings where we cut the hotel and plan at the ground level to show the role of how the red curtains create space. And this is a section through the building. How am I doing on time? Okay. 1 minute? 12 minutes, okay, no problem. So this is a section cut through so you can see the sequence of the cars coming in, parking. My employees had to spend a whole day finding the right poses. If you look closely, there are a lot of different poses. And then, for an exhibition we had in Tokyo, we made an animation. So this was done with a local band called Paradise Malam International Band. It's a local funk, local Malam rural country music. So this is a story of how this old bald man said that he was going to go exercise every afternoon. But he doesn't really go exercise. He goes to picnics. But he doesn't come by car, this one, he walks. This one has better sexual resolution. This is a part where I asked Andy if I'm not sure if I should show this. so with that picnic sex motel, I was really hoping that I was going to be able to research it, and then he wanted to turn it into a hotel. The picnic hotel, in the end, was demolished. I was like heartbroken because I thought it was a beautiful hotel, and I wanted to recycle buildings, not just building parts. So that was 7 years ago. It was demolished. And it was one of those projects when you don't get it's a heartbreak. It's like I really wanted to do that renovation, but then 3 years ago he called me again and said, "Don't worry, Chat, I bought another sex motel." Right? Not as beautiful as a picnic hotel, but it still has its mask. Right? This is Papa Tony. He's pretty cool, right? He looks just like how you imagined, right? And he talks like it too, Papa Tony. He's here standing in front of our next project, renovation of a chicken coop. So Papa Tony is really unique because this is Papa Tony in 1963. He built his empire up by selling street food with Mama Dang, his wife. So they sold Thai iced coffee and kind of built himself from the ground up. So in 1963, they were selling iced coffee on the streets. He saved enough money to buy a taxi, made a living driving taxis. After doing that, he became a manager of a tailoring store. Then he opened up his own tailoring store, which became a chain in Thailand that my parents know, and eventually got money to buy real estate and develop hotels and massage parlors. I don't ask about those projects. So he bought the Mid-Praisan Hotel. It's called the Friendship Hotel. Very near the Nanda Hotel that I showed you earlier. So again, it's a U-shaped building. It's got a tunnel, a prototypical tunnel that you drive through. But then the courtyard isn't as nice as a picnic hotel. It's kind of narrow. So we actually demolished one set of rooms here to create a bigger outdoor room. Another problem with curtain sex motels in general are the rooms are 3 meters by 3 meters. They're very small because you just have picnics in there. You don't need to do anything else. So what Papa Tony said was like, I want to spend as little money as possible, but you need to renovate this so that 3 people can sleep here. So he can make extra income from the 3rd guest, right? And so this is what we showed him. This is what we're gonna do. We're gonna cantilever one bed out the facade without having to add any extra structural foundations, which is exactly what we did. With each room, we create a bed box, a day bed. That could be a day bed that you look out the window, or it could sleep a 3rd person. Okay? If this is an isometric of the building stripped down of its facade, this is the extra bed extrusion for each room. So what happens when the bed is extruded from the facade is you have these negative spaces, which are filled up by the scaffolding. You remember the scaffolding we researched at the beginning? And all through the 5 or 7 years that I've been working, finally, I felt like it had its place. So this scaffolding, this life scaffolding, will work in a way where it will flip the once mysterious and dark sex motel inside out, from kind of a closed-off, introverted sex motel into an open, friendly street hotel, right? And the scaffolding does so in 3 components. There's the porch element right here. There's an alley or soi component here. And there's klang pang, which is theater component. The soi tries to solve a problem that's always a very regular problem I always find. I always have clients who are developers come to me and asks me to do an apartment or a condominium, but always says, just use my plans, but I need to do a beautiful facade with nice balconies. Because the foreigners love balconies in Bangkok, which is complete BS. In Bangkok, nobody ever uses a balcony. Does anybody ever live in the city and use a balcony here? What are balconies used for? Laundry, air condensers, right? That's the reality of Asian cities. So what's the problem that comes with that? What happens if your air conditioning unit is broken? What happens when your air conditioning unit is broken? No. Andy then. When you ask a repairman to come, how do they fix it? Where do they go? You have to go into the...
The repairman must go through the unit and through your bedroom.
So they have to go through your apartment to service it, and they make it all dirty, right? And then your wife yells at you, right? So this happens. The soy is an alley that allows the repairman to climb through the facade to service all of the air conditioning units and all the electrical conduit and all the pipes. So, and we expose all the mechanical, electrical systems in the soy so that it could be easily serviceable. And it becomes part of the architecture, right? But the soy will have another surprise public function I'll show you later. So this is the soy. This is a very regular. This is a fire stair that leads to the soy mechanical servicing component. This is the stair at the corner of the building that gets you up. But this has to be a mobile or a temporary structure because of legal issues. So this is another lesson learned. To get up here, we learn from another bastard. This is a stair we always find at the gas station in Bangkok. They made this homemade stair to change the light bulb in this high canopy. Have you ever noticed it? Next time you go to your local gas station, this is how they change. So this bastard, they thought we were weird. The whole office came to a gas station and started posing like selfies under their stair. They thought we were very strange, but it's a beautiful structure, right? Slim materials used very economically. So the porch, the second element, is this kind of covered area that covers a 6-meter setback between the lot line and the building. And what this does for the city is this. We go back to the idea that Papa Tony really built himself on street food. He loves Thai street food and wants to sustain it. So what we're doing is we're working with neighbors. This is a local Thai sausage, Saikok Isan, vendor right next to our hotel, right? And this is Sister Kit, somebody who does custom dishes right on the site as well. So we went to them and we talked about how we create a new hotel business brand or business model where instead of having Westerners and foreigners come and eat pancakes and eggs and sausages, they don't want to come to Thailand to eat international breakfast. They want to come and have ba thong ko, which is a fried dough, or tofu milk, all these Thai street food delicacies. So we talked to them about how we can actually have them come and sell their breakfast, street food breakfast and street food meals in the hotel in a non-competitive way, as a way to build a brand for Bangkok, right? And so with that, we start to do research on food carts, street food carts. Thai sausage, papaya salad, Thai chicken, satay, fruit. We did about 12 different research carts. And we designed these mobile furniture that could be wheeled out to take over the street when the police aren't here. And when city officials come back in, we just wheel it back in. That's very Thai. It's very ASEAN, right? You guys have that too, right? But we won't say anything. And we start to understand that architecture isn't just walls and floors and ceilings, but they're stools and tables and carts, Christmas lights, people. So this is actually the real thing. We went to a supplier for a vegetable cart supplier and just hacked it and turned it to patio chairs. This is a space that KMUTT now occupies underneath without being harassed by the city officials that tell her that she's loitering the street. She can sell her food here. This is Pikai, the one who sells a sausage. And so what happens too, at nighttime, Papa Tony wants to kind of make a boundary, a border, so that people don't wander into the patio and sleep on his benches. So these small walls serve the purpose, but in the daytime, they flip down to become sidewalk tables to activate the street. And remember the soy? Yeah, so this is how the tables flip down, and you can have lunches and conversations with people passing in the street. And the soy, in the evening, becomes a vertical stage for street concerts. Okay, almost done. This is a local band that perform. So all the landing of the air conditioners become a vertical stage. And the whole neighborhood comes out to listen. These are volunteer dancers, wives of architects who perform for free. And so I filmed a small concert where you see the street life. It's kind of a free concert for the neighborhood. This is a popular local Thai pop country song. All the neighbors came out. You don't have to lower the sound. More people came. You can see there are performers on all the landings too. So it draws, the whole street expands vertically as well. That was a concert. It was really one of the best days for me as an architect to see that happen. So let's say the concert is done. We're almost done. Let's say the concert's done. You can check into the hotel by going through the same tunnel, right? And then once you go into the lobby, the check-in counter is a new kind of a street furniture on steroids with these vertical security grills. And then when you come to the courtyard, there's an outdoor theater where you have a lounge pool where you can sit and watch movies. And we invented a new type of balcony where it forces you to face out and dangle your legs so you can watch the movie and face each other so that you're not in your room playing on your smartphone, right? It forces you to come out and interact with each other. Much like this photo where it's an old Thai tradition to have outdoor movie in temple. Right? Also, there's a special feature where there's a pulley system here that takes popcorn and drinks up to your balcony while you watch a movie. So, in essence, this scaffolding and this scaffolding are really from the same bastard family. Thank you very much.
Thank you. My name is Joshua Wastara, and I have a question. What I learned is you have a basic concept by your research in Bangkok Architecture about that startings, and then in your case, you combine it with the client one, with client concept, and you combine it onto the building that very conceptual. And I am wondering, in your design process, where you get the judgment criteria, the main criteria of the project, do you have the same judgment criteria from the bar starting, and you implementing all of that in, you implementing the big concept of that bar starting in all of your project? Thank you.
Are you asking me how I kind of improvise the bastarding from the pre-design to construction? How I implement it?
What I get is you have the main concept about that bastarding, and you implement it in all of your project. Is that your criteria, or you have a different criteria in designing of this project?
I think it's okay. First of all, for me, it's not a linear process where I do research and then I use the research and do design. Only this year have my 3 projects been built. 5 years before this, I had no built work. So all that time, I've been had canceled projects or whatever, but I'd also been researching, right? Construction worker houses, illegal markets. It's really important that for me to convey to you how important for us to start building this body of knowledge is, because it isn't just selling architecture. When I research these things, I learn about the city, I learn about architecture, I learn about myself, and I learn about what my attitude is towards architecture in the city. I think it's really important, where I'm not just kind of taking the client's brief and just doing something interesting with construction worker house. I have a clear attitude on how I want the city to be more public, to be more enjoyable, to kind of reignite itself and not just commodified and sold by the developer. So that's the overall attitude, that there's always a positive attitude to make the building open itself up to make the city better. So all the projects, even the private residents have that attitude. And then whatever technique is appropriate, it's about me discussing with 8 other employees, I don't say employees, co-workers in my office about, let's see what we've learned and what are interesting things that we want to integrate. And what type of clients that we choose to accept will actually have desires who match what we want to accomplish in making the Bangkok a better place. So it's a very general thing, right? But there's usually a clue when an interesting project comes in, like a light bulb goes in, oh, that will be cool if we could do that. So, and the bastarding, as you call it, happens not only at the pre-concept, but another 30-40% happens along the way. Like my balconies where I dangle my legs, probably didn't come out to design development, last phase of design development. Before that, we were making balconies that had these silly curtains that closed itself off, like the sex motel. It was really stupid. I'm glad we didn't do it. But again, design is a natural process for us as well, where we improvise, where we try to be flexible as much as we can, but without wasting money. Yeah.
Good morning, yes. Sorry if my English bad. Mr. Chat, how do you choose this kind of style, bastard style? Because you study in Western and you back to Bangkok. And for me, as a young man, isn't easier to design a modern style of building like box, wide, big window. And if I choose to design this modern kind, people who look at me will say, "Whoa, your design is awesome." But if I choose to design like a local, people will say, "Oh, it is so dirty. How we clean it? How we clean a brick?" So my question is, how do we educate ourselves, not to the client, but ourselves first? Because it's proved to be useful and function for the building you design. Thank you.
It's a great question, and you almost answered the question yourself. Like, you have this modern architecture that looks good, but doesn't work. You have this local architecture that works, but is hard to maintain in 2019, right? So you need to do a bastard. Really, in the end, it's not a complicated answer, but it's something that hasn't been done, I think, in a very systematic way. And it can't just be done in one project. Like I told you, I've been researching for 7 years just to build a foundation enough for me to do these projects that just came out. When I first made an exhibition of this research in Tokyo in 2015, the jury that selected me was Ando, Sejima, and 3 other well-known architects. But at the end of the exhibition, where I just presented the research and just the Nanda Hotel, the question was, your research is really interesting, but it doesn't show in your design work yet. That was 4 years ago. So it took me that time for these projects to come out. It takes a long time. It isn't an instant thing, and that's why I want to show these slides to you. Because I want to encourage everybody to start building your bastards, especially in Southeast Asia. And we can't do them individually. I'm creating an open source website with MIT so that all of us can do our own bastards, Surabaya bastards, and load it up onto this open source web, AutoCAD and SketchUp. Because it's important to have the actual model rather than a photo. Because a photo, you're just gonna copy and paste the style. But if I am able to let you download the AutoCAD model with the real structural member size, with the real modular size, you have DNA to begin your own bastard. I'll go ahead.
Okay, thank you for the time. My question is, how is that, are you doing research on every project that you took or not? If you do the research, how did you manage the time constraint between every project? And I think it's kind of very penting, very important things to be know, because you do research and you do design, and you say that it's not a linear things. And how did you manage it?
For one thing, I think architecture is not how you design in school. Meaning you work on a project day and night, 24 hours a day, and not sleep. I don't think that's how you do architecture. You just have to get off Facebook and Instagram and all that stuff. I mean, we have a set time on how much time. If you work efficiently, we can be as efficient as any other profession. That's one. Secondly, I have a 3-pronged office: research, teaching, and practice. Where if there's an issue I want to research about that's interesting, I know in my mind that eventually this will help my design, right? And so I accept interns who come and research this particular topic, right? So we all benefit. So now I have the research that becomes put away, which I could use tomorrow or next year or another 2 years, but I'm slowly building this manual up. And I'm getting, hopefully, smarter and more experienced about the issues, because in the end, every project is going to deal with the same problems, similar problems in Bangkok. That's why I said before, I don't like working anywhere else, because I just want to solve our problems, right? You know what I'm saying? So the time is about managing, utilizing resources of students. 20% of the employees do research. 20% of the time, the employees do research, and the other 80% they do practice. So there's a way to do it fast. For example, if I survey a building, it takes 2 days, not full days, and then 3 days to draw it. I mean, if you work efficiently, you're not wasting time. You can do that and not make the other projects late.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for introducing us the bastard things.
Oh, you're welcome. Very quickly, I just want to go through this. These are more of some additional research we did. This is called a Dead Klong Bastard Canal community. So I would drive past this community and see all these happy community tables set up. It's actually covering a canal that's slicing through the city. And so we went and ventured into, I call it dead canal because we have existing canals that are topped over or people build street over, so they're divided into sections like a caterpillar or a snake that's chopped up in different pieces. And each piece has its own character. So this is one of the pieces. Dirty, messy, but if you look close enough and survey, you start to see permanent residences, but also these illegal additions on the concrete beams that are great. Like these extensions of patios from the walkway become extension of the house. Like this is a restaurant from this convenience store. Some of them become laundry area that can't fit into the existing house, so we document all this. Here we start to isolate these illegal additions, isolate them up. This is the next one called the Bangkok Shop House. In the front, it looks like a regular shop house, but once you go inside, it's pretty amazing. It is extension, a wood extension that extends the space by 600%, turns it into a regular shop house into a wood shop for furniture. And we drew this. Look at this one. This is the original shop house, and this is the new extension. There are all these new inventions that the locals are creating. And we draw it all. And we learn. We don't draw just to have detail, we draw to learn. So these are the Bangkok bastards, and what I want to tell you is that everywhere I go throughout the world, I use one morning of sketch and to look. This is in Bangalore, with these beautiful container street vendor boxes that you string the canopy and work with the trees to create space. And I just do these little drawings to study these local inventions. This is in Bangalore. This is in Tokyo. This is a float house. They have these traditional floats, and this is a garage that's distorted. Really beautiful architecture in Japan. So we surveyed all these guys and drew them. And we learned more about architecture. These last two slides, this is a photo I took this morning from my hotel room. And I want to show you that there could be bastards all over. So my homework to you, and I would love to work with you, next year I want 3 people to do, that's it. It's really important.
I have one question left. First one.
My name is Saikti. I'm from Surabaya. After you introduced me to Bangkok bastards, I think they are not bastards anymore. You know, when you told me bastard doesn't have parents or unknown parents, They born for a reason, of course, or after some cases. Effort again and again and getting better by time. So as modern architecture that was born after World War maybe, or bastard architecture, of course, has parents too. If these bastards parents came from different species, can we call it half-blood maybe?
Yes, half-blood, hybrid.
Half-blood.
Yes.
Okay, what I'm gonna ask to you is about law. Your own perception. Law versus architecture. Both are made by humans. Which one should be more organic in your perception? More flexible for Bangkok half-blood? Especially for vernacular architecture, which that has no architects. In slums or shanties, when their options left was break the law or die. Thank you.
Illegalness, right? I think the law is very important. And I'm not advocating breaking the law, but I feel like there's a certain cycle, urban life, that happens in our countries that may not be fully served by Western-based laws, right? There are many activities in our part of the world that's time-based that can't be explained by Americans and Europeans. There are always cases of blurred activities that can't be fully defined by Western laws. I don't know what the answer is, but I'm in the midst of trying to figure it out. But I just know that I don't know enough, and that's why I want to learn more. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. Thank you for the question and the audience. Especially thank you for Mr. Chat for the impressive presentation. It's very hard for me as a moderator to conclude. Yeah, because there's so much amazing going on in your presentation. But what I should mention is this bastard have children. The children is your architecture. Your architecture is not the bastard. The bastard is the original one, and yours is the children of the bastard.
I feel like they're all the same. I mean, once you start to categorize them that this is bastard, this is not, then I think you're selling yourself short.
Yeah.
I want my work to be as natural as the construction worker houses. And I don't want their work to be so artificial like my work.
Okay.
Like in the end, that's what really good vernacular architecture is, right?
Yeah.
It seems natural, nothing is frivolous.
Yeah, that's a question that I want to ask if we get more time. 1 minute, just 1 minute.
1 minute.
Yeah. All have questions, but not the moderator. That is interesting, but you seems to, although you're very specific about the local, concerned about the local, you did not incorporate the language of the vernacular. Is that some certain strategy or?
I didn't incorporate vernacular?
The vernacular.
Are you sure I didn't?
I don't know.
Did I incorporate vernacular? For me, the scaffolding is vernacular. It may not look vernacular,
Okay.
but there's a veranda space, there's overhang. There's an in-between third space. In Japan, you call it engawa. In Thai, you call it chiliang. I don't know what you would call it in Indonesia, but it's this transition space, but it may look like something different.
I should say the visual of vernacular, the tradition.
I'm not interested in the visual at all.
Yes.
I think the visual is just one language
Yes. Yeah.
that you choose to use when it's appropriate, but you don't use it to say, in order to say I'm doing something Indonesian, because there's no such thing as something that's Indonesian, right? So you use it naturally without being artificial by giving it a label. You use it when the situation calls for something, or limited materials, or limited contractor, or even personal preference of the owner.
Yeah.
Right.
That's because what we have in Indonesia, some architect that doesn't have this visual vernacular labeled as too modernist or something. But it's another.
And that's why I use the word bastard to make it not as architectural as possible.
Yes.
I want to use a word that's kind of shocking, but I don't want academics or architects to turn it into something architectural.
Yeah. Okay.
It's common people, right?
I should try to search my own verb of bastard. Yeah. Thank you again. A very interesting discussion, but unfortunately we have time. Everything has to an end. We have one more duty to give the audience. Which one is your favorite question? The one with the. Sorry, I have this.
I think the one where he said, okay, I can do modern this, or I can do vernacular, but then who was that one? He was sitting over there.
At the back?
I think the guy in the navy blue.
Okay, that's the one. Second one?
Oh, I have to choose two?
Two best, and
oh my gosh.
And they are the best concept. Is your research on every project, law? The last question is about the law and illegalness.
The law was good.
Okay, we have two winners. Yeah? But I would ask to all of the participants at the questioner, yeah, to come at the front of the podium. Sorry, at the stage.
But I would really love for you to come and tell me about your local bastard. I'd love to see while I'm here. And I would really, like I said, I'm serious about asking students or professionals to contribute their bastard to a global website. If anybody is interested, let me know, and I will be a guide on how to draw and potentially be a studio for university as well.
Do you take interns?
Yeah, you can send in,
I have a student who will be interested in your...
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tapi udah dapat fotonya.